What's up, guys? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, for being subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and hit that button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this politics and BS. All right, so I'm not even surprised by this, but I wanted to share this news, this little update with you guys, because I shared about Rudy Giuliani and the judgment that was rendered against him in favor of the former two Georgia election workers that he has defamed and just literally turned their lives upside down, and they will never be able to live it as they did before. They lost their jobs, they had to leave their homes, their lives were threatened, and it was just a lot. And it's disgusting to me. This cretin is just absolutely disgusting. But I wanted to share this news because I saw when this broke this afternoon. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to play these clips and we're going to talk about it. I'm probably just going to stop throughout just to share my thoughts. But he has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get into this.
Week to be Rudy Giuliani. Just this afternoon, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in federal court in New York, estimating debts between 100 and 500 million and assets of less than $10 million. This comes just a day after a ruling by federal judge Beryl Howell that Georgia poll workers Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss can immediately seek the $148 million defamation award he owes them. In her ruling, Judge Howell cited concerns that Giuliani might, quote, conceal and dissipate his assets if he were allowed to wait. I'll also claim that Mr. Giuliani has, quote, proven himself to be an unwilling and uncooperative litigant.
All right, I previously talked about that, how they were requesting that this be expedited, and that in light of his reputation, his character, just being a freaking slime ball, they wanted to be able to assure that they were going to be able to collect on their judgment. So some certain things are going to be put in place to prevent him from dissipating his assets.
After previously ignoring requests for payment, Giuliani still could appeal the millions in damages awarded by the jury last week, but Judge Howell notes that the amount the jurors decided was actually conservative, given the damage he caused the lives of Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss.
Now, did you hear that? Combined together, the judgment total was close to 150 million. And they said that that's actually pretty conservative in light of the damage that he has caused. And, you know, it's really funny to me that he was the only one that was sued. Why wasn't the former president sued? Why weren't other people that were involved in this mess sued? I just wonder.
Joining us at the table, MSNBC legal analysts Lisa Rubin, Andrew, and Basil. They are both back with us as well. Okay, this doesn't get Rudy Giuliani off the hook, right?
It doesn't get Rudy Giuliani off the hook, but it does press pause. So, Lisa, you were saying that yesterday, Judge Howell allowed Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss to immediately enforce the judgment. The impact of this bankruptcy filing is to repause enforcement efforts. Right now, Rudy Giuliani doesn't have to continue litigating those cases against him. There are a series of other defamation cases by Dominion, by Smartmatic, both makers of voting machines, by Hunter Biden. There's a sexual assault and harassment case brought by his former employee, Noelle Dunphy. All of those are on hold. And as well, any efforts to enforce pre-filing judgments against him. That means that $148 million verdict by Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, right now that's on hold. But when you commit an intentional tort like defamation or intentional infliction of emotional distress, you don't get to discharge that in bankruptcy, meaning a bankruptcy judge can't wipe that slate clean for you. At some point, Rudy Giuliani is going to face the music with respect to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss.
All right, so you heard that. And for those of you who are familiar with the Cardi B and Tasha K situation, we know that she filed for bankruptcy. I can't remember which chapter she filed for because there are different chapters. It wasn't Chapter 7. But anyways, either Chapter 11 or Chapter 13. And in that situation, not to compare the two, because honestly, there really is no comparison. I've talked about that before as well. When it comes to that defamation case, I felt like the judgment that was awarded was far overreaching. I didn't feel that the amount made much sense. in light of the damages that were caused, because I just really didn't see what damages were caused to Cardi B. And when it comes to this situation, he almost caused these women to lose their lives, right? And you cannot put a price on life. So if a judge says that the ruling was fairly conservative, then he needs to pay up. And I don't care if he has to make payments until he freaking dies. And even after he dies, they are able to liquidate assets or whatever, because what he did and continue to do, even outside of the courthouse, is lie on them and just stir up the pot even more when it comes to these crazy people out here that want to threaten people's lives because someone said some things that were not true. And even if it was true, was it something that deserves these people to not live anymore? It's crazy out here.
Was how soon then could they see something?
It's going to be a while. Rudy is going to get the benefit of getting to reorganize his estate, essentially, and they will take their place in line along with other creditors. Those creditors not only include other litigants, but people that he owes money to independent of litigation, such as his former lawyers or accountants. The beauty of the bankruptcy filing, as humiliating as it is for Giuliani, and as much as it forestalls that recovery, is that he has to be transparent with the bankruptcy court. He can't play the same shell game that he has been playing with Judge Howell that resulted in the default judgment against him. He has to essentially open his kimono and say, these are my assets, these are my liabilities. With Rudy, maybe that's not the right analogy.
I was about to say, thanks for that, Lisa.
Yeah, can't get that out of my head.
I'm sorry.
You were going to jump in.
So there's some pluses to the bankruptcy if you are a creditor like Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. The assets are frozen. He cannot, if he tries to move them around, if he tries to pull them out of his estate, if he tries to hide them, that is a crime. And there will be a court that is overseeing all of this. If he does what he did in the civil litigation with Beryl Howell, to Lisa's point, and says, I'm not telling you where stuff is, that is contempt. He can go to jail for that. And the one thing that does not get stayed, he is facing a criminal case in Georgia. That case is going forward regardless of whether he is in sort of civil bankruptcy. So he still has an enormous amount of liability ahead for him.
So this cretin, he has a lot against him. He's got a lot that he's up against as well. And I don't see things getting any better for him. I don't know how old he is at the time of me sitting here and recording this podcast, but I really don't see him coming out of this because, like the attorney said, who, you know, is a commentator on this news show, he's also up against a criminal case in Georgia, and him filing for bankruptcy is not going to stop them from moving forward in that situation. And in this situation, if he lies when it comes to his assets and things like that, he could be found in contempt, which is something that is punishable by him going to jail.
About that long list of other cases that you just laid out, and the fact that when they presented this number in this specific defamation suit, they said the idea here is to deter future behavior, right? And we saw 5 minutes after that was delivered, he walked outside, made it very clear that he was not in fact deterred from doing that in the future. And that would seem relevant not just to this case, but the many cases that he is facing.
Yes, to the many cases he's facing. And remember also that the folks who represent Ruby and Shay have now filed a second lawsuit to try to enjoin Rudy from continuing to put their names in his mouth, as their lawyer has said. That theoretically is now on pause too. So the deterrence effect not only of the award, but of future litigation to try and get an injunction against him, at least for the moment, that stayed. But to Andrew's point, the criminal law enforcement is not. And at the end of the day, no judge is going to let him wipe an award for defamation damages clean from his bankrupt estate.
So you heard it there. He's not going to be able to get out of this because he filed for bankruptcy. This is all just to buy him time, to try to help him to reorganize things, to restructure things, and because he's also got these other lawsuits that have already been filed against him, and they have not been tried in court yet, and he's not trying to settle anything. He's just trying to save time. And to be honest with you, I feel like he's hoping that he just drops dead. I'm not even trying to be funny. I really feel like he just feels he would just rather die than to deal with any of this, because some of it in his death may be absolved, but other things, may not be. But either way, he wouldn't have to be the one to have to deal with it. I don't know who he's married to. I know he's been married before, and he was, allegedly cheating on his wife and all kinds of stuff. He's just always been a creep and a cretin. So I could see him just hoping that he doesn't even live through this ordeal, because Trump is never going to pay him any of his legal fees for what he, did for him and representing him. And he's even in this situation, not saying that 45 told him to say these things, but he did all of this for him, which is usually the way things have gone with the former president. All of these people that have been charged and have either pled guilty or are waiting trial because they refuse to plead guilty so far, they're in this situation because they pretty much laid their lives on the line for this man that wouldn't piss or spit on them if they were on fire.
I also think with respect to the injunctive, the second lawsuit, the new one, which is seeking just injunctive relief, not money. It's to say, stop defaming my clients. To me, it's hard to see that Beryl Howell will not figure out how to have that case go forward, because it's not pulling money out of the estate. It's not dealing with sort of the main focus of bankruptcy, which is to deal with sort of how do you allocate money amongst creditors. That's what bankruptcy is for. This is an ongoing harm. And so a bankruptcy judge is going to have the bankruptcy matter. The former chief judge of the D.C. District Court, Beryl Howell, clearly is going to have an interest in making sure that she is ruling on that continuing harm.
And his appeal, where does that factor in?
Well, he doesn't have an appeal right now. And one of the other things about Judge Howell's ruling yesterday was when she said that she would lift the stay of the judgment and allow them to immediately register their judgments in the two places that he owns property. She also said, make no mistake, to the extent that he's going to appeal, A, I don't think that's likely to be successful, but B, like anybody else, he's going to have to post a full bond. Normally, as Andrew and I both know from civil litigation, that kind of bond is in the full amount of the award. And as the appeal continues, you collect interest. So query whether a Rudy Giuliani who files a Chapter 11 petition for bankruptcy is ever going to have access to $148 million to satisfy the bond requirement. It's not clear to me that he can both file for bankruptcy and try to appeal this judgment.
So you heard it there. He said he was going to be filing an appeal. He just filed for bankruptcy protection, Chapter 11, to be more specific. And the attorney commentator said it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do both. And for him to file an appeal, he would have had to put up the full amount of the judgment on hold as a bond. And as the time goes, it would also accrue interest. So he would actually owe even more. And he's an attorney. He may not be licensed anymore because they took his license to practice based on, things that were going on and his actions, the things he chose to do. But he's an attorney. He knows better. He doesn't care. The man has just gone off of the deep end. And I mean, oh my God. I just hope these women get their money. I hope they get their justice. I hope they are able to get some years of enjoyment, because the last several years have been a living hell for them when all they were doing was just doing what they normally did before, working the polls. And when I say working the polls, I'm talking about the election polls, not those, other polls. But I really feel for them because I'm not surprised by this move. I already knew that it was just going to be something that he was going to do to try to buy some time, to hold them off, because he doesn't feel that they deserve anything. He came out and said how he really felt and said that he did not say any lies about them. So he's still claiming the same things he was saying, which was defamation. Is defamation, So I really hope and pray that they are able to get this worked out and get this resolved. But he's just going to drag it on to buy time. It's similar to what Alex Jones did in the Sandy Hook lawsuit, And then the news broke recently, maybe it was less than a week ago, where he's offered the Sandy Hook families that won the judgment, because he filed for bankruptcy protection as well. I think he offered them I don't know, I can't remember the amount over a 10-year period he wanted to pay them, because he was ordered to pay billions, I think, maybe $1 or $2 billion. That's a lot of money, okay? It's a lot of money. And so I just wanted to share that, because when I talked about this before, I had a feeling, I really had a feeling that he was going to go some sort of route to try to elongate this, to prolong it, to not give these women anything, So we'll see where this goes. If anything else with this situation comes out that is of interest, I definitely will keep you updated on it. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for being here, for liking and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I just wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.